Hey everyone, welcome back to another exciting episode of Attacker Productions. Today I'm Bancroft, being joined once again by Jake, Trevor, and like always, Fluff.
What's going on, y'all?
Hello. What's up, beautiful people?
And like always, there's buttons down below. Feel free to click them. They're there for a reason. Today's matchup, we got Jake taking on Trevor. Trevor's using Zamasu, while Jake is bringing back King Cole. Keep in mind, these matches for this week are definitely matches where at the locals we decided to kind of give it our all, and we're trying to just make sure we're ready for Gen Con. So, guys, as we go to the video, kind of explain your reasons for these decks, and let's get into it.
So, I've been playing King Cold a lot. I traditionally like mid-range style of decks, and King Cold is exactly that. It's super consistent. You're pretty much going to get to see what you want to see throughout the game. And since a lot of the deck's power comes from its leader, you can get around a lot of the floodgates that are going on, or really catch people off guard with just how big your leader swings can get. Also, this is like the dream turn one, where you get to take a life, draw a card, draw an additional card, play a free one drop, grab another card, and pass to your opponent with like a solid 9 cards in hand.
Yeah, and I've had a lot of practice playing against Jake's King Cold, and I've been on kind of thinking in my head, mostly because of my matches against him and some of the other stuff that had been happening to me on Untap recently. Maybe kind of like pivot off of Green Boo to try this out for a bit. Just because Green Boo, the way I play it, was just too easily played around. And just kind of like lost some of its consistency in that sense. So I decided to try this out as an old reliable kind of deck. And this night I was trying out some pieces that I wanted to see if I wanted to main deck or sideboard. That are more for specific matchups. So of course they'll probably end up in the sideboard. But it also let me realize what I need if I take this to have in my starting hand. I tried like 2 or 3 different setups throughout the night and realized that there's a very specific card I need in my hand every single time. So from that point forward, I forced it and just narrowly won the last match of the night because of it. So it's definitely a learning process night, because prior to this I had just kind of done my standard line of play, but in the event that I don't hit the standard line of play, got to find another way around it. But the leader, I feel, is a decent meta call right now. Everything is either blue, hand control, or crazy aggro. So on the awakened side, you get your dual attack, and each attack you draw 1. So it kind of like inherently deals with hand control through that sense. Also is able to easily take out unisons because of it. And it also has the ability to bottom deck an opponent's card, which a lot of people seem to forget about, or because it only comes up maybe once in a match. But being able to remove, one specific card can be the make or break. And I've had it happen several times in that sense, to where they put it at the bottom of their deck, and then they never see it again.
Yeah, and I've fallen victim to this deck before. Like, we've played friendlies where you've completely just put my table in a state where there's really nothing I can do, including like cycling fields. So like, while it might not look like much in these early turns, like, I know the potential of this Zamasu deck, and that's why I'm like pushing as hard as I can, turning every piece of cardboard sideways that's on my table.
As you should. I'm reminded of the pressure this King Vegeta can put on this match, and I'm reminded that I can't let it hit 4 markers.
Very rarely do I get to use this King Vegeta in a way that ends the game? Because like the 4 marker or the -3 is so telegraphed without like double charging it or something. Um, there's no doubt in my mind that you're going to deal with it at some point. Is basically what I'm trying to say, and I'm hoping that like my leader and maybe a couple more battle cards can help me get there. Like I'm under no delusions that this unison is going to survive.
Yeah. This is where I changed what I charged because I wanted to try something different. Just to force an awaken. But of course, cooler.
That
Yeah.
cooler is something that Jake's like, I know in multiple games has tried to play, or has like been like, I want to play this card, but I couldn't. And just seeing him be able to pull that off just seems interesting, finally.
Yeah, so I was really thinking about this card the wrong way. Really the key thing to do with this cooler is to just hit 1-drops. Because a lot of decks right now are playing 1-drops with relatively low protection, but relatively high value. And if I can pay 1 to counter your 1 and maybe force you to drop a card on top of that and board a 15k body, that's huge. And then see here, because of that, I didn't counter with a charismatic on the 1-drop. I can now charismatic a bigger threat later in the turn.
Yeah, and ultimately, I wanted just to get rid of Berry Blue this turn. I was like, if I want any chance of making it through this match, just hurt your consistency at least a little bit, was my thought process there.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's kind of got me worried going into Gen Con is people are becoming more and more aware of King Cold and more aware of how powerful that Berry Blue is. Luckily, I had a second one, which just really sucks. Kind of lucky on my part, but yeah, it's just a lot of people are really aware of this card now, and I've had people counterplay it, super Kamehameha it, just really everything to keep this thing from hitting the table, and it's the right call.
Yeah, it provides so much advantage and recursion for the deck that basically, if your opponent's not dealing with the Berry Blue, then they're kind of making the statement that they have answers to your leader's swing, and they're not worried about you getting additional cards in hand. That's how I take that.
Or they're just unaware of how.
Or they just don't understand like how good that card actually is.
Yeah, which is understandable, especially if you've only played against King Cold a few times. But I've been spamming it so much locally, like this is public enemy number 1.
Yeah, really I mean, when you think about 1-drops that really affect like sticking, prior to this, there was what, Frieza's Death's Embrace? Is that what it was?
Yeah, Dr. Robotnik.
Yeah, like that's kind of like the idea in my head, is that this is basically that card reincarnated in a more utility form. For like forcing your leader to just be an absolute powerhouse in terms of its value.
This is a rough spot right now. It definitely feels like one side is one-sided. What is going through your mind right now, Trevor? Do you remember by chance?
Yeah. To sum it up in a very simple way, FML. It was a really rough set of draws at the beginning. Like I said, I was kind of testing out various different like hand setups to see like if I miss hitting certain cards, if I can still recover. And I learned I can't, at least against King Cold. I probably can again in certain matchups, but this is one that I just genuinely would basically just completely be demolished if I can't have a certain hand start up. So as you can see, I'm literally dealing with this Vegeta unison that I mentioned earlier. So I was basically forced into using several super combos, which I mean, it's going to help me hit certain cards I may need in that situation. But I ideally don't want to be using 3 super combos on turn 4.
Yep.
For survival.
Well, and that's
Yeah.
a really good point to make too, because a lot of people that have been playing blue are like, yeah, I'm not worried about King Cold. It's an easy match. But really it's not. King Cold is never really an easy match, and very few decks have a super clean way to just assure victory against King Cold. And that's part of their resource recursion. But because their leader has the potential to be a double strike every turn, if you don't have a negate to deal with every unison swing, every leader swing, every pinnacle of the clan swing, then it's almost like playing against Turles, where it's just going to get big quick, deadly quick. And you just have, like you said, you have to have those resources to deal with it.
Yeah, like typically against go wide boards, you just use Bean once and you be fine. But when Frieza clans gain an additional 5k based on the fields,
yeah,
now all of a sudden you've got to use 2 beans to even be above them. It's rough. Or you run Son Gohan Baby's Minion. That's your other option, right? But
Yeah. That card really puts the stop sign up for me, because as big as my hand is, as Jimmy has pointed out in previous videos, sometimes it's just a lot of extra cards. And there's not a lot I could really do.
But if you have Barry on board, I mean, bottom decking extra cards isn't the end of the world, right?
Very true. I mean, you mean discarding them?
Doesn't Gohan's Baby Minion bottom deck?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But
So with Barry
plays
on
from the
board,
drop.
plays them from the drop area.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So
There is a search on play, I think.
yeah, it's only top 7 though. So you would get to shuffle your deck, which is decent, but she'd have to be in your hand. I don't know. Yeah, I don't want to attack into a Baby's Minion unless I think I can end the game, I think.
That's fair. I'm thinking, holy crap, I survived the turn. What can I do here? And, I mean,
It's not a bad
there's
play.
this.
It's a blocker. It can bounce a card. You reset it energy. It's an extra draw. I was going to mention, with Jake tapping out, he can still do, like, is that once per turn for that negate?
Nope.
Yeah, like, I mean, King Cole is freely able to tap out with the ability of Dormant, or even that negate right there, which are free to play. That one's conditions, having field cards?
Yeah, you have to have 3 or more. But it includes your King Cold's Dynasty.
So yeah, you're definitely like protected for that instant.
Yep. It's just a bad set of circumstances, but this is just kind of payback for what I did to him in the middle of the week at our local brewery, so it's fine. Tit for tat.
Warped my entire, or shuffled my entire field, including King Cold's Dynasty, back into my deck. I had to take it out of the top loader.
Was that the 5-drop Zeno?
Yes, sir.
Yep. I mean, it's truth be told, it's one of the few ways to shut this deck down if you get a Zeno to 5. Because from that point on, they lose that 6-drop field card. And if you do it potentially early enough, they can't replay it even if they were to draw it until turn 6.
Right.
Yeah, Zeno is bad news against this deck. So your only hope is that by that point in the game, you're at enough energy to be able to just hard cast a Pinnacle of the Clan if you absolutely had to, right? Or it's kind of bad news. It really just shuts the whole damn deck down.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, Jake's recovered from it before, but in that matchup in particular, I know you all aren't seeing it, sorry. But in that match in particular, I did it to him on like turn 3 or turn 4. So at that point, it's really hard to recover. The game that he did recover in, we were in like turn 5 or 6. So he was still able, he was 5 or 6 energy. He was feeling comfy. He was still able to recover and still win the game. So it's not like a guaranteed win unless you're able to pull it off really early.
Yeah. If you're able to protect that Zeno long enough to get him up to the marker count to do it early, like on turn 2, if you can get him up to 4, then the next turn load 1 under and then just -5 instead of going with your turn, and then just killing from there. Like, it would be really hard from King Cold to come back that early in the game, where they might only be on 2 or 3 energy.
I think the only time I ever pulled it off was the first time I played King Cole, and I was using 21 ramp. So I just got to the point where I just literally paid 5 energy for the unison, just -5.
Yeah. It's not a bad strategy against the deck. And it's probably that and the 5-drop boo are just bad news for King Cold altogether.
Oh, yeah.
And at this point, typically blue, halftime they're seeing Hatchak, but from the looks of it, you haven't seen it yet either.
No view of Hatch.
Yeah. Which would have given you that extra turn. And here's Jake going for that push using the hidden... Oh, no. Sorry, you're going for the unison.
Yeah, this thing is just a giant stop sign for me. Luckily, I'm able to cycle the field and get the last marker off of it.
Yeah, it's actually... You said it was a giant stop sign, but King Cold has a lot of really interesting low investment ways of getting that unison just off the field, right? Because you can pay something cheap, swing, let them bounce it, swing lead, pop your thing after a double strike, you're taking 3 off of it, they theoretically -1, so you're really only losing 1 or 2 energy investment.
There he is. So my plan was to try and kill with Pinnacle of the Clan, which is why I needed that Boo unison out of the way. But here's Baby Hatch.
Yeah, that'll put in work.
So I think I had another faux pas here. I think I didn't realize I put this Majin Buu unison on the top of my deck instead of my top area. Because I think I'm literally going to draw it.
Wait.
Yeah.
Wait, did you not catch it? Hang on.
No, I didn't catch it.
No, he just wrote it.
But
That's awesome.
I charge it anyway, so I don't think it's ultimately gonna matter much, but it's really funny.
I remember the sigh of dismay you made when you drew that card too. You were like, ugh, and just immediately charged it. You're like, this is the worst thing I could draw right now.
Yeah, I think I was basically thinking I need a different WinCon card than this card here. Because there was another card I was testing this night that I was thinking that I think it's going to be decent in this matchup. In particular, even if it does bounce everything back to the hand, the Gotank's Battling the Forces of Evil card.
Oh yeah.
Because if they're down to 2, you can't just homicidal clones without bouncing everything back to your hand. I mean, you play a lot of stuff cheap anyway, but
he's got barrier and deflect, so he gets around charismatic and cooler.
Yep. And for the first time, I used my leader ability because at this point I'm like, I'm not going to need this energy anyway. Just kind of go for broke, draw a card. Hopefully it helps me on the following turn.
I mean, let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4 regular attacks. 1 potential double strike with going into turn 6. Yeah, that's rough though.
I just want to point out, if you can look at Trevor's field right now, where it's Murichim, Zamasu, Trevor has bodied me with that field exactly like 3 times. Where I just don't have anything that can remove the Murray-Chem, and he has enough negates to prevent me from getting in cleanly at leader or Murray-Chem. So even though it looks like Jake has a very commanding presence, which of course Jake was able to get the win in there, there was a possibility that Trevor survives there, depending on the quality of cards in his hand.
Oh yeah, blue could be very sticky in that way. Just a few solid negates and my turn's over.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed today's matchup. Keep in mind, there's buttons on the screen while Fluff does the outro.
Both decks, I believe, are major contenders and things to look out for if you're going to be competing in competitive events online or in person coming up over the next few months. So if you're not really sure how to play against either deck, make sure you put some time into learning both of the decks, because I really think that Zamasu is a really good blue strategy. And then King Cold, best deck in the format, question mark. Read your cards, know your plays. Let us make the mistakes so that you don't have to. Cough, putting the boo on top of your deck, cough. And as always, Fluff out.